Greetings, welcome to the SciFi Pubcast, the podcast that tries to be a pub and perhaps someday a pub that tries to be a podcast. And as always, we are looking for customers to come visit our bar. So if you're passionate about something you want to be on a podcast, well, let us know, because this bar is all about community. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a 5-star review wherever you find the show and subscribing to our YouTube channel. My name is Joel. I'm the owner of the SciFi Pubcast, so to speak. And today at the bar, we have our two full-time dedicated staff members. We have Keri Simpson and Derek Beebe. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, yes, we're back. And yes, I'm still recording at the D.B. Bowden Library on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario. So if you think I'm sounding like I'm talking out of a box, it's because I'm probably talking out of a box right now in my private little grad student PhD cubicle on the 4th floor looking down. Luckily we didn't record an hour ago because it was a big demonstration in front of the building with a couple hundred people chanting things and making political speeches, which I don't want to dive into. But they've gone away right now, and so we can record a podcast. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, fall is happening in southern Ontario. The trees, the leaves on the trees are turning orange and red and dying ever so slowly. It's nearly Halloween. I love this time of year. But it's no Southern California. Keri, how's life in Southern California?
It's slightly chilly and windy at the moment. We had my dojo had our 18th anniversary party last night, so I'm still recovering from that, and I'm recovering by drinking a vodka tonic, or Romulan ale vodka tonic, appropriately for this podcast. But thus ensuring that I'm going to need to eat something once we're done, because I haven't eaten much today yet.
Like I told you before we hit the record button, it's not the first time people have showed up in the bar and was hungover from the night before.
Yes,
I may have done that once or twice in my lifetime, I must admit.
I think that this has been a running theme with just the podcast in general. One of us is usually hungover or drinking or both.
And it's not me this time.
It's not you this time, which is weird. And I didn't even drink all that much last night. Just a bit of sake.
Oh, great.
And a sugar high, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. And we have Derek from the hills of Pennsylvania. Yes, Appalachians, the oldest mountain range, and I think almost the world. It's very old, much older than the Rockies. Explains a lot about Derek. So, Derek, how's life in Pennsylvania?
Well, our temperatures are varying wildly. Yesterday it was 78, today it's 50, and on Tuesday it's going to be 29.
Oh, wow.
Do you guys have that experience? Do your temperatures go up and down wildly by 20 or 30 degrees from day to day?
Yeah,
not very often, no.
We do in Ontario. It's like last week was all rain. This week has been high temperatures, but more rain. And it's going to crash probably by the weekend. Yeah.
We could use some rain down here. Yeah. You send it this way.
Yeah. I'm just happy it's not snow. And I say that as being half Canadian living in Canada right now. So there's that. Any which way, we do have a bar we have to run and operate called the SciFi Pubcast. And part of the bar is, of course, the back end, which is the kitchen. So, Derek, man, how's the kitchen doing?
It's good. You told me we were doing the greatest Star Trek movie for this episode. So in honor of that, I've been working on, I guess it's a food dish, but it's basically, like you put a little saucer on the middle of the table like they do in the Romulan Senate, and then it opens and it kind of like shoots sugar sprinkles up into the air that are green. And just like in the movie, they do burn your skin, so be careful with that.
Wait, what? Derek, which movie do you think we're talking about here?
The greatest Star Trek movie, Star Trek Nemesis.
B4,
Shinzon, the Scimitar.
I mean, it far be it for me to complain about a movie that features Tom Hardy and Ron Perlman, but I don't. And I think the movie is probably better than people give it credit for, but I don't think that's probably the best Star Trek movie ever.
It was the movie that was so good they had to end the franchise after it because they knew they could never top it again.
I'm not sure that logic works, Derek.
Well, to each your own. Art can be subjective sometimes. Yeah, Dirk is completely wrong in this matter, but still, he's very passionate.
I mean, we knew that, but I wasn't gonna, come right out and say it. I'm a little more. I'm usually a little more diplomatic than that. Maybe.
So it sounds like our kitchen's in good shape. All right, great. My updates. Yeah, Joel, what am I doing? Well, I'm fencing at the varsity at the Western, mostly helping out younger fencers and helping with logistics because I'm feeling my age, which is great because that naturally fits into the theme of today's episode or the topic, which is we're doing, if you haven't guessed by now, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Oh.
Right. What else? I've been embroiled in student politics at Western University. I'm now a counselor, and I'm trying to do everything in my power to protect the one place the place I love on campus, which is the graduate student bar called the Grad Club. There's a lot of history for me personally, and there's a lot of institutional history in there. And one thing about dealing with folks who are younger is that they're very passionate, yet they often lack experience. And I'm just feeling my age. This is definitely there's a generational thing happening, and there's a life experience thing happening. And I got elected to a steering committee to design the next board of directors because all the non-charity, not-for-profits in Ontario is being forced to reform because of the law passed by the Ontario government, which is a good thing. And I had to give a little speech and answer questions. And literally I said to them, hey, this is about a question being representative of the largest student body. And I say, I'm a 49-year-old white male heterosexual man. I'm not basically, there's a very slim range of people like myself at university, but I do my best. And then I spent 5 minutes talking about empathy and perspective. But I got elected to this steering committee, which is extremely important in my graduate student politics world. I can't believe I've been drawn upon that because, let's just say I'm doing it for the right reasons, and I get almost nothing out of it. What else is there?
You can't just do the con circuit, dude. You need to get involved in other ways too.
Yeah, I think I'm losing more hair. But actually, I took a very adversarial approach for the last couple of months because of politics, and I make no bones about that. But now I've been trying to mend fences and be more of an entente. So the idea is to put political pressure on folks without pushing them off the ledge. So it's a trying time for almost everyone right now, and we have to work together.
Right.
What else? Oh, I went to Stratford Theatre to see a play that brought in, which is Stratford is a small town in southern Ontario, where the prominent Canadian theatre is located. Actually, 4 theatres. They're known for the Shakespeare. But I saw a version of Macbeth called Goblin Macbeth, done by a few people. It was amazing. So it was a comedy show that was kind of, they did Macbeth, but in full goblin outfit, 3 of them. And it was quite excellent.
Wait. So this was the Scottish play, but with goblins?
Yeah.
In all the roles?
Yeah.
Cool.
In various degrees of sobriety, I should add, too. And of course, it was created by Rebecca Norton, and there was another guy who was there, Bruce Hork.
Oh, cool.
Yes, from Star Trek. Yes, Brave New Worlds. He plays what's his name?
Hunter?
Yeah. So he's a Canadian actor, and that's been his baby for the last several months. They did performances in Calgary before they came here, so that was great.
Nice.
Now, when you say Goblin Macbeth, do you mean it's the exact same dialogue and story? They're just dressed up, or is it a different?
It's an adaptation, which means that it's more of a comedy with the serious bits left in. So you may see them go back and forth between different characters, but it's a comedic take on a serious play, and it was very well balanced. And they actually showed up before they let the house in. And they walk through the crowd, and they always make they're just stuff like that. So it's like improv meets Shakespeare meets goblins. So all around, it was a great time. All right, enough about me. We should talk about Star Trek. But had to do this one tie-in with the Star Trek thing, okay? Because today we're talking perhaps the most famous Star Trek film in all of history, at least our human history, The Wrath of Khan, directed by Nicolas Meyer and released in 1982. Yes, let me do my math. I was 8 years old. This film was highly influential. Not as influential as, say, Dune was, but still pretty influential on the mind of an 8-year-old.
I was 5.
Oh, yes.
I was 1.
Yeah.
At least you guys were alive, so there's that.
This is true.
And now we're not 8, 5, and 1 years old anymore. We're older. Right? We're approaching the other side of the hill, right? On the downward slope side. Not very nice. I hate to say it.
Speak for yourself. My teacher says I'm aging backwards.
Oh, good. But that's fitting because there's some loose themes happening in this film. A lot of age and mortality themes going on, as well, of course, vengeance. Okay, Derek, this is your line, man. Vengeance. Do the con line. Scream con.
You want me to scream con?
Yeah, please.
Well, it's funny to say that.
Let me take this off.
Because now that I know we're doing Wrath of Khan, which is the 5th best Star Trek movie by my rating, I do have some non-bread left over from the other night, so we could have some.
No.
And to make it even better, there are little worms crawling out of them, kind of like the earworm things that Khan uses.
Yeah,
I don't think those are worms at this point, Derek.
They're eels, like city.
No, I don't
eels.
I don't think they're eels either at this point, Joel. If you left the bread city out, it's probably something else.
Yeah.
I mean, they're alive and wriggling, and they are trying to get into my ears.
Oh god.
No.
All right. So yeah, vengeance. I was on about vengeance and wrath, right? Okay, as a possible theme. I'm just switching topic.
I mean, you couldn't have just led with Gach or something. Seriously.
Oh God.
I know we're not dealing with Klingons in this episode.
Okay.
In this movie. Never mind. Keep
Before
going.
I dive into the analysis of the film, right? Okay, let's get our general impressions, and I'll tell you mine first. Okay, I was 8 years old. To me, this was like Star Wars in space. 1982 was a great year, right? Okay. To me, it was very much Star Trek. Being a space opera, and actually when I look and research it, it was very much done in the tradition of Horatio Hornblower, or Captain Blood, in terms of a swashbuckling pirate or naval adventure film. You didn't have the same intellectual, take that you did in the motion picture. This was all about action and emotional investment, and it stuck with me. This is the first time we saw CGI in a film. I'm talking about the little computer sequence section on the Genesis device, or Project Genesis. That just blew me out of the water, too. CGI in 1982.
Point of order.
Yes.
In Star Wars A New Hope in 1977, there's that computer image of the Death Star when they planned the bombing. That's not considered computer imagery?
Well, I think it's about. It really depends on what you mean by CGI, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess this was like not just like simple wireframes, but an actual like image.
Yeah. So remember, it takes you like a aerial viewpoint going over like a map, like a globe, right?
Yeah.
And
it actually showed motion and. Yeah.
If you listen to the director's cut commentary on the Blu-ray, which I just did, and yes, I own the Blu-ray because I'm that old. The director Nicolas Meyer speaks about that. How even when he did the commentary, which is probably about 2000, that it's CGI has moved and advanced so much, but yet he said that it's the first movie that they did real CGI. Now, what does that mean, real? Well, yeah, of course you can debate that, but still, that's pretty awesome for an 8-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else? Oh, to me, this just it crystallizes Captain Kirk as my favorite captain, because he was such an ego, such a powerful man. But in this film, he finally showed some weaknesses, I think. One is age. You see that in his birthday party. You see that when Bones gave him the birthday gift of eyeglasses to wear, right? And little interesting point there is that William Shatner, the actor, didn't want that. He wanted William Shatner as being still the swashbuckling young buck, yet he didn't get his way, and yeah, he played it up on his age a bit in terms of the overall story of this film, and that I like that, and the fact that James T. Kirk in this film made a tactical mistake. He should have raised his shields when he was approaching the Reliant, because he didn't know who was in charge of it and communications was down, right? So, and because of that, he almost lost the Enterprise. Yeah, he caught with he was caught with his pants down. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Space pants.
Oh no, bro, it was breaches.
Well,
Breaches. I think he used the word breaches. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's he didn't have to take the ship out of space dock for a, three. It's it's the 3-hour tour thing. He blew up protocol to take the ship out for a joyride, and no one's gonna get hurt. Why would anyone get hurt? It's just a normal routine mission. It's a 3-hour tour. Everything's gonna be fine. Nope.
Yeah, he got blasted.
Yeah.
But actually, Meyer made this comparison. So Nicolas Meyer, the director, is very big into Sherlock Holmes. He did he wrote a novel that hit the best time list back in the late 70s, and he used aspects of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. And so Sherlock Holmes, the character, is very unhappy unless he's on a case working towards solving the case. He goes to depression, he's antisocial, he uses drugs, all this stuff because he's just not happy. He's not in his happy space. And the comparison is with James T. Kirk. He may not have been a detective, but he's an adventurer. He's a starship captain, and he's only happy being in the captain's chair, having these great adventures. When he gets promoted to an admiral, or he's stuck doing the lecture circuits, yeah, he's grossly unhappy.
Well, so that was actually something that was hinted on in the novelization of the motion picture. It was why, in the novelization at least, that was the explanation for why McCoy left Starfleet, was because he basically resigned in protest because they promoted Kirk to admiral over his objections. Yeah,
so much rich history. Anyway, that's my initial take on that. Let's throw it over to Derek. Derek, what's your initial take on the Wrath of Khan?
Well, I do think it's a little derivative of Nemesis, because they're both about the villain being like a dark mirror, obsessively pursuing the captain in a big ship, and they have like a big I'm just kidding. Okay, so
timeline.
We're not time traveling in this episode, Derek, and this isn't even a time travel story in Trek.
Well, it's not yet.
Okay. At least not yet.
Wrath of Khan is one of my favorites. I do think I give the edge to Undiscovered Country because it was so much more important to the larger franchise. It was the story of, how we came to be at peace with the Klingons, and I really like that one. But I would say that Undiscovered Country is my number one. Wrath of Khan would be my number two. It is really good. There's so many iconic moments in it. Khan is such a great villain. And watching it again just now, the thing that really struck me was the score by James Horner is amazing. It is so good. And I read that this was actually his first ever film score. And it is so iconic, and there's so many great themes in it. It just like, is John Williams in Star Wars, it really elevates the movie above what was something that was already good. But yeah, Khan is a great villain. And this is kind of the introduction of Kirk as he's popularly known today, because the Kirk of the television show was actually a very by-the-books person. He wasn't, a renegade the way the later movies will portray him, and he wasn't like that in the motion picture either. So this is the story that really kind of reinvents the Star Trek franchise, making Kirk into not a completely different person, but a pretty different character. And also it makes Starfleet a more military organization. It changes the uniforms and everything. So this really does, and of course this was the movie where Gene Roddenberry was kicked out of production. So you can see the effect of the Great Bird no longer being here. But it really does change the entire franchise in, I think, a good way. And it's a great movie.
That's excellent. And of course, who directed Star Trek V, The Undiscovered Country, which is a quote from Hamlet?
5 was directed by William Shatner.
No. 5 or 6.
6, The Undiscovered Country, was directed by the same guy.
Yeah, Nicolas Meyer.
Yeah.
So there's that.
You'd asked us about 5.
Oh, 6. I get confused. I'm
it's
old.
okay.
I'm thinking my age. I use this line. I said the other day I was called a curmudgeon for the first time.
Really?
I love that. I'm living my best life.
Congratulations.
Yes. Age with grace. There's that. Okay, Keri, what's your initial take on Wrath of Khan?
Well, okay, so a bit of history. I think I've discussed this before. I don't remember actually seeing Wrath of Khan until early 2000s.
Wow,
now,
really?
Okay, but here's the thing. The first Star Trek movie I can remember seeing all the way through was Search for Spock. The first one I saw in the theater was Voyage Home, because I was 5 when Wrath of Khan came out. I distinctly remember, like, before Search for Spock came out, they were running a lot of anniversary. I don't think it was a big anniversary, but they were running a lot of specials on TV and a lot of clip shows that, they took clips from the original series and also took clips from Wrath of Khan and just highlights and such, and I'd seen those. I think we taped them or something, and I would just go back and watch them because it was the only thing I was allowed to stay up to watch, or it was the only thing that aired at a time when I was allowed to when I was awake. Anyway, I digress. So I had seen those clip shows so many times that I thought I had seen Wrath of Khan until I actually sat down and watched Wrath of Khan, and it was like, I haven't seen this.
A spoiler alert, Spock's dies. You know that, right?
Yes, because again, the first movie I can remember seeing all the way through is Search for Spock. I knew, even when I was 7, I knew Spock was dead. And I knew that was the reason why they were going to go search for him, because, they had to go get his body off of the Genesis planet, which I'm sure astrophysicists we're looking at the creation of the entire solar system from the Mutara Nebula, and going, would that really have happened in 6 days?
Yeah.
I too saw Star Trek 3 prior to Star Trek 2, because I remember when I was a little kid, we had like a little video VHS rental store in the middle of the grocery store, and I rented the third one for whatever reason, and I remember hitting play on it, and the opening scene is like the death scene played from the previous movie, and I remember what is this? What's going on? I don't understand.
Well, and that's the other thing. It's like the beginning of Search for Spock, they replay the end of Wrath of Khan. So between the clip show and the beginning of Search for Spock, I thought I had seen Wrath of Khan all the way through, and I apparently hadn't until sometime after 2000. It's weird, but yeah.
I generally just blend the Romulan ale when I make factual errors, which I should actually have.
Again, 5 years old when Wrath of Khan came out.
Oh well. Yeah. I think another aspect of this movie I really enjoy is the fact that it's layered with references from literature. And that has followed me through my entire life because it was pretty trendy back there in a certain time period of films, just to always try to link it with literature. And you see that actually in the next generation of Star Trek, they see that. And Star Trek has this tradition going, and that's another aspect of Star Trek I quite admire. So in this film, The Wrath of Khan, of course, you have Moby Dick references all the time, right? And yes, I'm going to say the line right now. To the last I grapple with thee, from hell's heart I stab at thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. Yeah, I have to work on it, I know. But there's also...
Paramount, please don't sue us for Joel's...
Yeah, Moby Dick's past copyright, okay?
I was going to say,
Paramount
copyrights in Moby Dick.
That's true.
Okay. Yeah, of course, Moby Dick was written by Melville, right? Herman
Melville.
Thank you. But there's also another film that was given, not film, book that was given Kirk within this movie, and of course it starts with, it's the best of times, it was the worst of times, which is the opening lines of Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. So there's change happening. And you can see that you have this change in the characters. You see this change in the Federation. Yes, it's more militaristic. Yeah. Mostly because the director Meyer really wanted the more nautical theme. So this is why the uniforms looks like old-fashioned 18th century British or American officer tunics, and so there's that going on. But, there's so much to unpack because as soon as you make a literary reference, it opens up other themes or for someone you're trying to present. So for, like, of course, Moby Dick, the chase, the vengeance, and the ultimately ending of, bad ending that vengeance will lead to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to cross the streams because I do that all the time. Hate leads to fear leads to anger leads to suffering, and rage and vengeance never end well.
No, it does not. And
I know I'm misquoting it, but again, vodka and not a lot of food. So yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that's really impressive about this movie is that they were working with almost 1/3 the budget of the original motion picture. Because the first one, it was financially successful, but they didn't like how much money it cost, and it did not get a good critical reception. So after that, they kicked old Gene out, brought in some outsiders, and said, you have to do this for a fraction of the cost. And, I mean, when you actually look at it with that eye, you can see where, most of it takes place on a couple ship bridge sets. There's no big on-location filming. Hell, I mean, Kirk and Khan never even meet each other. There's never even like a fight scene between them or like a big gunfight or anything like that. And a lot of the models were reuses from the motion picture. And of course, they reused sets as they could. They cannibalized sets from the aborted Phase 2 television series as well. So they basically did everything they could to make this as cheaply as human possible. And yet it's a great movie. It looks great. It doesn't look cheap or small. I mean, you can kind of say like, oh, yeah, it was mostly just on some ship sets, but it's a great movie.
Well, there's the I know it's probably not just an Hollywood adage, but you can have it fast, cheap, or good. You can only have two of those. So cheap and good works. Cheap and fast, you have to sacrifice a good movie.
Yeah. I think dramatically the plot works in many ways, and we see some film devices being used with great effect. There's a counting clock down, right, in terms of Genesis device going off. As soon as there's a clock counting down, you're going to have pressure. After that you're in spacecraft, and the battle towards the end of the movie when they're in the nebula, that's a submarine movie. Right, because you can't see your enemy and you have to outthink your enemy, going from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, and I think that's fascinating.
Another thing that I think works really good with this movie is you obviously could have just done a story of Khan is back for revenge. He goes after Kirk at the end. But the whole addition of the Genesis storyline gives it a really interesting wrinkle, so that it's not just about one guy trying to kill another guy. There's also this all-powerful terraforming program/weapon that he could use or steal and use against him. So, there's a lot more layers to the story than just a simple Moby Dick revenge story. And there's also the fact that we have Kirk's ex-lover and his, secret son as well. So there's a lot of interesting things. And of course, they're all themed to the theme of life, death, rebirth, aging. So it's, there's a version of this movie that could have been very simple and boring, but there's so many little details that elevate it.
Well, and the relationship Carol Marcus had with Kirk, that's not something Khan would have known about. And and I don't think Chekhov probably wouldn't have known about it either. I mean, I think it's hinted that McCoy and Spock know about it, but I don't know that there's anything beyond those three. Maybe Uhura, if hindsight being what it is now, if Kirk maybe mentioned it to Uhura while they were, in the off scene of Strange New Worlds or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
so we have the Genesis project, right, which creates life, also removing, killing, right? So it's life and death stuff. You have the father-son aspect of it, right? How do you live forever? Well, through your offspring. That's one way of looking at life.
Yeah.
The fact that no matter here, there's a ship full of cadets. It's a training crew, young generations versus the old generation, or the older generation. You have Kirk wearing eyeglasses for the first time, reading books, physical books. Wow, that's so old-fashioned.
Hey, I read physical books still. I don't just read things off my Kindle.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the whole Spock's death thing. You can read into that too. Did Spock pull a Jesus? Is he coming back from the dead? When away, yeah, there's a trope going on.
Well, okay, and I know they weren't necessarily planning for a third movie when they were doing this one, but you kind of see the seeds of Carol talking about how the plants in the Genesis cave grew faster than anticipated. And again, the Genesis wave not only created a planet out of the nebula, but creating, a sun and, who knows how many other planets around that sun. That doesn't set off any red flags. And Spock knew exactly what he was doing. He thought it through.
Before he died,
and the mind meld at the end, like
he knew it was only logical for him to proceed and sacrifice himself by fixing the warp drive in the contaminated room, knowing full well there's a strong possibility that he would be brought back to life or reincarnated to the Genesis device, which was probably going to be used on that planet because of Khan, and Khan being Khan. Giving a con. Yeah, well, I mean, we're probably reading a whole bunch of stuff into this because, again, hindsight and knowing what we know now, it's kind of like there was one night where I was watching A New Hope, and I don't know how much Lucas told Alec Guinness about what his plans were, but there's a look in Alec Guinness's eyes when Luke mentions Leia. I'm like, dude knows something. Dude knows something, and he's not saying shit. But that's reading into the story with the extensive knowledge that we have of Star Trek and Star Wars and whatnot.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the final image of the movie Spock's coffin on the Genesis planet?
No? I think not, at least not in the...
Because I know there was lots of camera panning through the Genesis jungle.
Yeah, actually, Derek, it may not be the last shot, but it was one of the last
Okay.
shots. It's
Yeah,
one of
so like they were
the ending
clearly
sequence.
telegraphing his resurrection if the
Yeah.
actor decided to return.
Yeah. Well, as to quote Spock, there are always possibilities.
Yes.
Eh.
And to quote and to semi quote Lower Decks, we don't talk about our resurrection experiences.
That's actually funny. I like that. But we should talk about no-win scenarios and Kobayashi Maru test, because that plays into life and death as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first time we saw the Kobayashi Maru deck exercise happen in Star Trek, and it's been famous ever since.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the whole red herring of the rumor that Spock was going to die, and then he dies at the very beginning of the movie, and everyone thinks that we're off the hook. Spock's not actually going to die, but he dies anyway.
I read that in the original version of the script, he does die in the first act, but people were not happy with that, so they moved it to the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because what you do, right? You face death with the same amount of grace as you face life. I'm paraphrasing a couple lines from the movie, but is that true? Well, can you change the conditions like Kirk did? Can you cheat death? To me, that's like, oh yeah. Especially a young Joe, I'm all over cheating death. Okay.
Well, Spock did, because he put his soul in McCoy's body, and then it'd been funny if he scrawled on the wall of the glass wall of the radiation chamber, "Put my body on the Genesis planet."
Yeah, let's talk about that, because of course the famous saying is, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Is this true? Yeah, it's a good question, because sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. Yeah, it's almost like is it a Kantian imperative, named after the Danish philosopher Immanuel Kant? Is it yes always the way, or it's not? So you can read philosophy into this. It's great.
Mm.
Well, in general, I'd like to say that all life has equal value, but obviously some people are more vital to society than others, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, like a Secret Service agent willingly gives his life to save the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, but does that ever happen in reality? It's possible, of course, but has that ever happened? Secret Service agents have been shot on the job. Not saying that, of course they have, but to literally take a bullet for the president, right, to save the president's life, has that scenario ever happened? Yet, I hope not.
They've been exposed to COVID for a photo op.
That's true. But and then you see the other movies that follows this Wrath of Khan, right, where Kirk definitely is sacrificing the needs of a few for the one. Spock, they nearly got court-martialed, right? Okay.
Well, Spock's important, though. I mean, he was fundamentally changed the face of politics in the entire Alpha Quadrant for centuries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they remember him 1,000 years later, so.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny how in the long range Spock was more important to society than Kirk ever was. I mean, like Kirk, saved the world and everything, but Spock actually was this revered political figure who enacted deep fundamental change in the entire Alpha Quadrant.
Lasting peace.
Yeah.
Oh, before I forget, I want to mention there is a novel series called Vanguard that takes place during, I want to say, season 1 of the original series, and it kind of acts as a prequel to the entire Genesis Project storyline. It reveals where they got the information to do the Genesis Project, and Carol Marcus and David appear in the story, and it's a really good series. It was a 9-book series, partially written by my favorite Star Trek author, David Mack, who is amazing. Everything he writes is amazing. And it's a 9-part series. It's kind of like a Babylon 5 kind of thing. It's a serialized political thriller, and it takes place on a big space station between warring powers, the Federation, the Romulans, the Klingons, and the Tholians. And it's about they discover these ruins of an ancient alien empire with extremely advanced technology, and all the sides are like in a Cold War race to try to crack this technology first. It's a really good series, and that ancient alien technology is where the Genesis Project comes from, and Carol Marcus was a scientist on the project in those books.
I think I have those somewhere. Yeah, I do. Cool.
They're really good.
I'll have to grab those. By the way, before anyone online corrects me, yes, there is that last shot of the coffin. I must have looked away from the screen while I was watching it this morning. Again, vodka. Well, yeah, we'll go with that as my reason for forgetting about that.
No worries. Like, we're talking about age and old technologies, right? Okay.
We're both in our late 40s, Joel. We are allowed to forget things.
Yeah, we might be old, but at least we're not ancient yet.
This is true.
There's that. Mm-hmm. So we're not like dinosaurs, right? Yeah. No. Well, I think we should talk about our just one or two last thoughts and perhaps close our doors, because we can talk about this movie all day long. And I just want to make a note that, this is a Star Trek film with bagpipe music in the terms, in the way of having Amazing Grace played on the bagpipes at the funeral of Scotty's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Not Scott. I'm sorry, Spock's.
Yeah, we don't see the funeral for Scotty's nephew, and I think they don't even mention that Scotty's nephew accepted like the director's cut, which I don't have.
Yeah.
So and the novelization, obviously, Scotty does make a point of mentioning it to Kirk in the novelization, but
I misspoke. Yeah. I was thinking Spock, but it's bagpipes. Yeah. Anyways, I'm a big fan of bagpipes. Okay.
Oh yeah, me too. And it's weird because like I didn't realize James Horner did the music for this, and then later on he goes and does the music for Titanic and Braveheart and all these other movies, and there's bagpipes in that too. And suddenly it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a thing with him. He'll put bagpipes and stuff. Cool.
I have to admit, I wonder, this issues with every movie, but say take this movie, Wrath of Khan. It's such a great Star Trek movie, and it's changed the way Star Trek progressed as a franchise. Is it possible to make a film like that ever again? What do you guys think?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's possible. It's just you have to bottle lightning. You have to grasp the ghost. There are always possibilities, but sometimes you just have to be in the right place at the right time and take some bold choices and go for it.
You could argue that the 2009 J.J. Abrams movie was something like that, because that's something that made Star Trek popular in general culture again. It was pretty much a dead franchise before that, and he delivered a big, rollicky, Star Wars-y type action that made Star Trek popular with Joe Q. Public again, enabling the, eventual resurrection in the TV size.
Yeah. That's an argument. That's an argument. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this movie does set up an actual, progressive storyline too. So this is like the first time where we actually have Star Trek that remembers what Star Trek did in the past, unlike the original series that doesn't remember, what it did the week before. And although, apparently they forgot to put some codes around setting Alpha 5. So, they probably needed a California class ship to go back and check on them once in a while.
Oh yeah, can we talk about? I mean, like, this is a great movie, but there are so many dumb things in it.
Oh yeah, I have one.
Like nobody goes back to check on Space Hitler stranded on this planet. Nobody notices that the other planet blew up, and then this planet is where that one is. I mean, that is so stupid. I mean, like,
no one. Okay, they said the ship that Chekhov was on to do the surveying for the Genesis project, and Chekhov, knowing apparently remembering that he was on the ship before Chekhov shows up on TOS, and knowing that they dropped Khan off on SETI Alpha 5, didn't look at the fact that they were going to SETI Alpha 6 and go,
Yeah, like,
maybe we shouldn't be in this system.
Yeah, and like, are there a different number of planets than the last time I was here?
Yeah.
Yeah. My thing is that at the big space battle between Kirk and Khan, and so Khan, his ship's disabled, right? Okay, he says that line with with my from hell's heart I said at thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee, and he sets off the clock for the Genesis device. I have a question. Why didn't Kirk just blow up his ship? Like the Khan ship, finish the job. Like, is there some
Maybe
sort of dead man's advice on the Genesis project? Like, if it gets blown up before the countdown finishes, does it just release the what the Genesis device does?
Well, David said that once the Genesis wave starts, it can't be stopped.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't just the torpedo; it was already building towards its foregone conclusion. Maybe if they had blown up the ship, it might have stopped it, but that's time they could have been using to get the hell out of the system and warping away.
Yeah, I don't know. You can explain that, right? Okay, this sounds like poor engineering from my ears, but so be it.
I wasn't gonna say it. Okay. I wasn't gonna say it, dude. I've already picked apart stuff. Like, just let it be, let it go.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, okay, like in today's world, if one country launches an ICBM in the atmosphere and through space and hits another country, but before it hits the other country in flight, it gets intercepted with a defensive missile and blows up in the atmosphere, would that release a nuclear blast? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't know. I think it's possible, but I'm not a warfare specialist or a nuclear warfare specialist or a physicist. But it raises these questions, in terms of, when you design things that blows up, is there a way to disarm them? Who knows?
Mm-hmm. And of course, we have the tired old trait of, the Enterprise was the only ship in range to deal with this. Where the hell are all the other ships?
And it's a ship full of cadets.
Yeah, it's a ship full of trainees.
That wasn't supposed to be out there in the first place.
And here's another one. So Khan puts the earworms in Tyrell and Chekhov that makes them susceptible to suggestion. But wouldn't they be susceptible to anyone's suggestion? Wouldn't it not constantly, like if you told them to stop trying to kill yourself, wouldn't they stop trying to kill themselves? Why would only Khan's suggestions work on them? Why would the earworms differentiate like that?
Yeah, it bugs me too.
Maybe they were trained by Khan, and they only respond.
Well, he was growing them as pets in that little tank.
This is true. So. Yes.
By the way, that the introduction of Khan is such a great scene when Chekhov and Tyrell are kind of like on this blasted desert planet, and they find this empty canister, and then he sees the Botany Bay belt buckle, and Chekhov's like, "We have to get out of here. We have to get out of here." And then there's like the beep 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 sound of something approaching, kind of like in Aliens. And then they run outside, and then there's like this entire cast of like creepy people in robes and masks. That was, and then the whole earworm thing. That is an incredible introduction for a villain.
Yeah.
And especially when you have it in the franchise already, right? The original series, Space Seed, the 22nd episode of the first season, when we actually meet Khan Noonien Singh for the first time, played by the same actor, I should say, Ricardo Montalban. Yeah, Montalban. God, what an excellent actor that guy was, right?
Yeah,
Mexican American, amazing. He's as a villain. Yeah, he's my Khan. Okay. And then you give him motivation. Half his crew died because they went to the wrong or because of climate change on the planet there, right?
Like severe climate change.
Yeah, and his lover, which strongly suggests Marley McGivers, Lieutenant Marley McGivers from this Space Seed episode, right, passed away. So it's like, okay, there's another tie-in, and it's motivation for the hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I haven't read
with
these.
him at the end of Space Seed.
Yeah, I haven't read these books, but there is a series of novels that shows Khan's life on the planet.
Interesting. Any which way, any last thoughts?
What did you guys think about the fact that Khan and Kirk never meet, and the fact that our villains are super strong superhumans, but because they're never on screen with any of the heroes, we never actually see them using that ability? Was that like a wasted opportunity?
Well, I mean, Spock does say that, you know, Khan's really, really smart, but he's not used to thinking in terms of space. Like, he wasn't out of the cryopods long enough to, I mean, yeah, he went and started looking at all the tech specs for the Enterprise, but he hasn't been out of cryo sleep long enough to, you know, think about stuff like battle in three-dimensional spaces and stuff like that. Maybe he just never thought. Maybe he just never studied submarine battles or something from 20th century Earth before he got frozen.
But don't you think it would have been better if after Spock died of the radiation poisoning that Kirk goes racing after him on a speeder bike in futuristic downtown New York, fighting each other on top of a speeding thing as something is about to blow up and crash?
No, I don't.
Maybe if Khan hadn't blown himself up, possibly, but you know, that's not the movie that we got in, you know, 82. So
yeah,
don't get me wrong. I do love Into Darkness for what it was, but you know that they gave the characters different circumstances than what we got in the original Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Derek, my take is that you don't need to have a physical fight for conflict to happen, like dramatic conflict. And I think it worked well without it. So I don't think it's a wasted opportunity. Mind you can then mock it, say, let's have some dramatic conflict, say, via Zoom or Skype, and see if that works on the screen. And yeah, that's probably kind of lame. But I think what the Wrath of Khan, the film, does well is that it did not need that because they had dramatic pressure and conflict through other ways, in terms of, say, the pressure of being in space and on a starship, these aspects of it, and the fact that there's this legacy of hatred and history there, and to me, yeah, that's okay. You know, it feels very nautical because you have people fighting in machines, large machines, which is very modern warfare like, as opposed to agent warfare where it's face to face. All right. Any more last thoughts? Because that was a good question. A good observation, Derek.
Thank you. I also want to point out Christy Alley was great as Saavik. It was a real shame she never came back because I really liked that character and that performance. You know, like she comes back in the third one with a different actress, and it's not the same thing.
I don't know. I liked Robin Curtis as Saavik as well. But Kirstie Alley was also really good in the role.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that would be like a missed opportunity because of the differences in the actors being portraying them, and just because the Vulcan to act as a supporting character for Spock in many ways. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I think we're done. I think it's great that we got an episode out on a regular schedule of programming. Yes, the SciFi Pubcast is back. No thanks to me, my PhD studies and my trials and tribulations on the campus of Western University. Yes, there's that. What else is there? Well, this show is available on most podcast platforms and on YouTube. Subscribe today. For listener engagement and announcements, follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SciFi Pubcast. And if you wish to contact us, let me try this again. If you wish to contact us directly, our email address is management@scifipubcast.space. We love hearing from our listeners. Okay, Keri, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me pretty much anywhere at Blackfire, Keri Blackfire 42. That's Keri Blackfire 42. Interesting enough, that is a reference to a Star Trek novel where Spock plays space pirate, which it's not the best novel in the world, but Spock as a space pirate is awesome.
Oh wow. What other podcasts do you do, Keri?
Currently, I am also on Enter the Dojo and Cape Chronicles over on the Random Chatter Podcast Network. DC Talk, which is our DC comics and movie podcast, will return once the SAG strike is done, whenever that happens, because I'm supporting the strike in that way.
Fair enough. Derek, where can people find you on social media or this internet thing that the kids are talking about?
I am at Derek J. Beebe on Twitter. My website is derekbeebe.com, which I still forgotten to update again. And
You're fired.
I'm moving forward with my edits. I got my book 2 edits back from my editor, and I'm almost done with book 3. So my plan is to start self-publishing by the end of this year. So I only have 2 months left. I need to get moving on it.
That's fantastic. Great job, man. Keep that up. I'm so proud of you. As for me, my Twitter address is at Joel_Welch, but I'm on Threads, I'm on Mastodon, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Listen, I don't hide behind anything, so it's either Joel_Welch or it's going to be Joel Welch. Yes, there's that. It's closing time. Take care, and please make it home safely. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Live long and prosper.
Rathbone, podcast logo by Jea Rhee, copyrighted Joe Welch. Listen responsibly, and we can't wait for your next visit to our fine establishment. Cheers.